those who don't know, my wife's Maddie, and maybe similar to your two, we've got 3 children who just run around. So if you see a blonde-haired child running around here, it's probably mine. But yeah, it's lovely to be here. We've been on this journey as a church looking at the 7 signs in John, and we've been looking at how these signs point to life. Jesus has been turning water into wine. Neil starts with that. We've had the healing of the official's son, then the healing of a paralyzed man, the feeding of 5,000 people, walking on water, giving sight to the blind. Like, Jesus has been going all over the place. It's like a kind of supernatural CV. It's like incredible. And today, it's the last one. We are looking at probably the biggest one. It's about death and life. And it's where we find Jesus at a graveside. There's no signs of life, and we're going to see what he does. So today we're looking at the story of Lazarus, and it's in John 11. So I'm going to read most of John 11, so hang in there, and then I'll take us through it. Do we have John 11 on the screen as well? No, that's fine. Okay, listen close. Okay, John 11. Now a man named Lazarus was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. This Mary, whose brother Lazarus now lay sick, was the same one who poured perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. So the sisters sent word to Jesus, "Lord, the one you love is sick." When he heard this, Jesus said, "This sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it." Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. And then he said to the disciples, "Let us go back to Judea." "But Rabbi," they said, "a short while ago the Jews there tried to stone you, and yet you are going back?" Jesus answered, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight? Anyone who walks in the daytime will not stumble, for they see by this world's light. It is when a person walks at night that they stumble, for they have no light." And he said this, he went on to tell them, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm going there to wake him up." His disciples replied, "Lord, if he sleeps, will he get better?" He will get better. Jesus had been speaking of his death, but his disciples thought he meant natural sleep. So then he told them plainly, and this is Jesus being quite blunt, he just goes, "Lazarus is dead, and for your sake I'm glad I was not there, so that you may believe, but let us go to him." Then Thomas, also known as Didymus, said to the rest of the disciples, "Let us also go, that we may die with him." On his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them in the loss of their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. "Lord," Martha said to Jesus, "if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask." Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha answered, "I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day." Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this?" "Yes, Lord," she replied. "I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who is to come into the world." After she had said this, she went back and called her sister Mary aside. "The teacher is here," she said, "and is asking for you." When Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet entered the village, but he was still at the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who had been with Mary in the house comforting her noticed how quickly she got up and went out, they followed her, supposing she was going to the tomb to mourn there. When Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. "Where have you laid him?" he asked. "Come and see, Lord," they replied. Jesus wept. Then the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind have kept this man from dying?" Jesus, once more deeply moved, came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. "Take away the stone," he said. "But Lord," said Martha, the sister of the dead man, "by this time there is a bad odor, for he has been there for 4 days." Then Jesus said, "Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. Then Jesus looked up and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I know that you always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said this, Jesus called out in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. Jesus said to them, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go." So this is an amazing story. And the story of Lazarus is a sign. So Neil started this series all these weeks ago with this great and simple analogy. And he was talking about the Haddington Farm Show. For those who are there, if you remember this. And he was saying it's where his and Joe's dog won this very prestigious prize of the waggiest tail. It's basically like this dog won like the Crufts of East Lothian. So, but he was saying, if you stand by the Haddington Show sign in Tesco's car park, you are not at the Haddington Show. Now, I know it's really obvious, but I just thought it was a really great analogy. So, like, the sign isn't the thing, right? It tells you where and what the thing is. And so here, this story points us to something. And it's not just about what Jesus could do, it is about who he is. And it's marked by 3 things that I'm going to unpack pretty briefly. So the first thing it's really marked by is it's marked by this sign of friendship. So as we've been hearing over the last 6 weeks, Jesus has been going through the region, healing people, demonstrating his power. But this is different. And it's different because it's not just someone he meets, it's one of his best friends who's unwell. And we immediately know this, and we know that they're important to him because it says, they say to him, "Lord, the one you love is sick." And then a few verses later it says, "Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus." So, it's important that is in this passage. And we're talking about here the Son of God having friends. Like, let's not underestimate this thing. They're perhaps like some of Jesus' best friends on earth at the time. And John is emphasizing this. Friends are important, and they're really important in this story. And when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about one of my best friends who's called Will. And maybe you want to think about some of your best friends in this story. But one of my best friends is called Will. We've known each other since we were pretty young. He's really intelligent guy. He graduated from Oxford. He's got great things to come in his life. And what does he want to do? The thing he really wanted to do was to be on a TV game show. Okay, so he's left Oxford, and priority 1, new life starting, goal is to get on a TV show. So he starts applying to all these shows, and he manages to get on one called Total Wipeout. Now, I don't know if everyone knows what Total Wipeout is, but just look at it afterwards. But effectively, it's a giant adult assault course with incredible moving parts above water, and people are flying off things, and you're competing with a group of people. So Will manages to get on this show, and it turns out that he's actually really good at this. So good, in fact, that he gets through all the rounds and wins the show. So we're all really excited. And if you're the winner of the show, then all the winners of each show of that season go to the finale. And they're all held in Argentina. So he flies out to Argentina again. And he gets there, and yet again, he goes through the rounds, he keeps on winning, people are like flying off things, he's holding on, and he arrives at the final round. And it's a time challenge, so you do this like route on your own, and you don't know what the other person's time are. So this one guy goes, he does an incredible time, so you're watching it like, Will's not gonna beat this time, like it's too fast. Anyway, Will's up. He goes as fast as he can, he flies across things, and he beats this guy. And I actually Googled this because I was like, just checking, and he's still the non-celebrity record holder of the course. So he wins, he gets this trophy, and he is titled the Champion of Champions. So he's Series 5, Total Wipeout UK Champion of Champions. And sometimes he'll show you the trophy. He'll even introduce himself to new people as this. But imagine being friends with the King of Kings. You know, he knows you personally. Like, what would it have been like to walk with Jesus, to hug him, you know, to say to others, you know him. Like, I can call Will, I'm friends with the Champion of Champions, I can access him anytime, I can WhatsApp him anytime. But Mary, Martha, and Lazarus had access to Jesus. And John is showing us the extent of Jesus' love for his friends. And he's showing them that they and we, and this is the important thing, they and we can trust him. And this is part of the sign. The friendship might not always make sense as well, but we can trust him. You see, it's weird. When I was studying this, you know, it says Jesus heard that Lazarus was sick. And then it says, so he stayed where he was 2 more days. Like, that's weird. Like, it's like he's sick and then he stays. And it seems confusing. Like, his best friend's really unwell and then he stays. But Jesus needs to wait so that this final and most important sign can be demonstrated. Because in Jewish custom, there was a thought that the soul hovered around the body for 3 days and, you know, start to decompose. And so the visit on the 4th day, as Jesus did, is very much just Jesus saying and demonstrating, like, this guy is very much dead. And he says, Lazarus is dead. You are going to believe because of this. So the friendship with Jesus, it doesn't always make sense, but he knows what he's doing. So this is like number one. The sign of this sign of life is marked by friendship, like in this huge monumental moment in humanity, in eternity. Jesus decides to bring his friends into this story, and that's really important. And then, secondly, we have the next scene, and we see this scene is marked with tears. So we're like marked with friendship, and it's marked with tears. So Jesus arrives at the village, and we see, you know, both the sisters of Lazarus come to him. You've got Martha first, and then Mary. And they each say the same thing. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. You know, I think they're saying, like, Jesus, we believe in you, we know you, we recognize your power. But we see that they didn't say to Jesus, can you raise him from the dead? Like, maybe even like that idea of bringing someone back to life just wasn't even like in their minds. Like, that's not what they asked. They said, if you'd been here, he wouldn't have died. And they each approach this very differently. So Martha comes to Jesus standing and is more of a kind of like question, it's more intellectual. And Jesus responds with insights and says, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though they die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this? And, you know, like, whole books, I'm sure, can like be written about this. Like, Martha sees resurrection as something that's going to happen at the end. She says, I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. She's saying, like, I know he's going to rise, but it's like in the future. And Jesus is saying something totally different and totally radical. And the Message version puts it saying, you don't have to wait for the end. I am right now resurrection and life. You know, he has complete power over life and death. He's saying, like, I am life. And this is why the last sign of these 7 signs is most important. Like, everything has been building towards this sign. Jesus is the resurrection. It's not something in the future. It's not this distant power. He's saying he's about to raise Lazarus, but he's also saying that he himself is going to be raised from the dead and conquer death. He is the life. And then we have Mary. Martha goes back and says to Mary, the teacher is here. And I can just imagine Mary, running to Jesus on the sort of outside the village. Like, she hears that he's here and he's running to her. And it's just a really powerful picture of a friend in desperation, Sometimes I think we come to Jesus like Martha and we're saying, we're questioning him, like, if you'd been here, like, this wouldn't have happened. Like, we're asking him questions. But sometimes it's just like Mary just running. And Mary says the same thing, but she falls down and weeps. And she's saying, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. And it's almost like emphasizing those extra 2-day wait. It's like, again, it's like Jesus waited and now he's dead. And Mary comes with this great emotion, and Jesus immediately responds emotionally into action. And, so much so, it's this very famous verse, saying, Jesus wept. And I think it's the shortest verse in the Bible. But it's just like incredible that he responds to her with tears. And everyone in this moment in Bethany is going to remember Jesus weeping. Like, it's a woman, traditionally, like, they might not be as connected. Like, he is weeping because this woman comes to him. And we're going to read about it today, like thousands of years later. This is the thing that reaches and records in the Bible. I'm sure many of us in this room have had times crying, like wondering why something happened. Like, why, Jesus, why did you let this happen? Like, if you'd been here, if you'd been with me, this wouldn't have happened. I'm quite a big crier, if you know me. So, like, I'm always like crying, and it's just there are these times where, like, also like, Jesus, we need you. I need you. And it's crazy here because Jesus knows what he's about to do, right? He knows the future. So he knows that he's about to make everything right. He's going to raise Lazarus from the dead. But I think it's important to remember that it doesn't remove the sadness from this moment. And it doesn't remove the sadness from moments in our lives. Like, we can have hope in Jesus. We know he's going to do what he's going to do. He's going to make things right. He's with us. But it doesn't mean that it's not sad in the moment and we don't need him weeping with us. Jesus is still there caring. And finally, with this part, I think, Jesus wept for a few reasons. Like, clearly, like, when you see friends weeping, like, I'm sure lots of us have had times when friends are going through hard times and they come crying to us or we cry with them. Like, it's hard not to cry with them. But I also think Jesus is crying because he realizes he is soon going to go to the cross. Like, all these people are weeping, and they're going to have the same experience about him. Like, in a chapter or two later, he's going to go and die, and they're going to be lost and afraid. They're going to stand outside a tomb and weep. Right now, he's the one outside the tomb, and they're weeping, but they're going to start weeping for him. And they are going to question. And they're going to say, Lord, if you've been here, or Lord, if you're still with us, we'd be okay. And then finally, the sign is marked by life. Jesus gives Lazarus his life back, but it costs him his own. So the resurrection of Lazarus is between the promise of what's going to happen and then the fulfillment. So in John chapter 5, so earlier in this book, Jesus says, he says, "Very truly I tell you, a time is coming and has now come when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear will live." So Lazarus is in like the middle of this. And we get to the last scene. Jesus arrives at the tomb and he says, "Take away the stone." And he says, "Lazarus, come out." And as a side, this is always a good reminder, like when you pray, you don't have to do like long prayers. Like Jesus was just like, "Come out." It's very simple. And you can imagine the reaction in the moment. Like we've been on this roller coaster ride. Like people have come to Jesus to say someone's might be about to die. People are crying, they're exhausted. And suddenly a dead man is walking around like a ghost with cloth on his face. Like this is totally crazy. And I don't know if you've watched the Chosen. It's like a televised version of the Bible. I haven't really watched it, but when I was prepping for this, I'm a more millennial. I was watching a few videos to learn, and the Chosen video of Lazarus coming back to life came up. And I would recommend you watching it. It sort of goes through the story. And when Jesus says, "Lazarus, come out," this man comes out, with cloth on him and cloth on his head. So it makes it quite real, because you don't know if it is definitely Lazarus as well. Like it's quite kind of eerie, a bit scary. You're like, is this him? Like what's happening? And then they unveil his face and you realize like it's really him. And you can just imagine like them all there at the tomb. All this commotion's been happening and suddenly this guy's come back to life. And it's this most amazing miracle, but it pushes the ruling class and the people who were questioning Jesus over the edge. And the raising of Lazarus basically convenes this council that decides to kill Jesus. So he gives his friend back his life, but it costs Jesus his own. And so in Lazarus' death, he gives life, and it's the exact sign of what Jesus' death does. So I suppose just in this last of the third point, it's like Lazarus is the friend. It's a sign that points towards Jesus, of who Jesus is. The story is obviously like a mirror. You've got the stone rolling back, which is the same as Jesus' resurrection. You've got the linen and the cloths being taken off, but Jesus takes off his own. Lazarus comes back to life. Jesus comes out of the tomb and he conquers death for all of us. So Lazarus is just one person coming back to life, but Jesus, the sign of what's to come, he's going to come back to life for all of us. So we're coming to the end, obviously, of the series now, and the sign is not the destination. Like the Haddington Show sign in Tesco's, like that's not where it's at. It's at the Haddington Show with the dogs. And this is not just about what Jesus could do, it's pointing to who he is. So, yeah, Neil, if you want to come up. So Jesus loved his friends. And I suppose this is a reminder, like he's calling us as a church into closer friendship. Like I think it's such a cool idea, an amazing idea that Jesus had these close friends that he was living with, and that is what we can have with him too. Jesus wept with them, and for any of us in trouble, in sadness right now, like he is with us in our trouble. He weeps with us. Even though he's got this amazing life for us, he's with us. And he gives Lazarus' life back. Jesus' life for all of us, for everyone, forever, if we receive him. And so that's the sign that was pointed to all along. It's not just about what Jesus could do, it's pointing to who he is. And you see finally at John, it says in John 20, "Now Jesus did many other signs in the presence of the disciples, which are not written in this book. But these are written so that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. So John says he wrote all this down for this one reason, so that we would believe, and that by believing we'd have life in his name. And so as Jesus asked Martha one question standing outside that tomb before anything has happened, it's kind of like, I suppose he's asking of us this morning, the same thing, do you believe this? Do you believe this?